Test, test. I'd like to call this special meeting to order, March 25th, 2025, for the Board of Trustees. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Manley, can you please call roll?
Sorry, it doesn't move. Donner?
Here.
Check. Here. Otto? Here. Roman?
Here.
Manley? Here. Moko?
Here.
And only is absent with notice.
Okay, make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
Support.
Support by Chick. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. There's no one in the audience for petitions. No clarifications in that case. The agenda item is discuss candidates for township manager who have requested confidentiality in closed session pursuant to MCL 15.2681F to review and consider the contents of the application for employment or appointment to the public office if the candidate requests that the application remain confidential. I make a motion we move into closed session.
Support.
Supported by Chip.
I have a question. Are we going
Yes.
to vote to have Adam only on Zoom?
Can we discuss that in closed?
Do we have to? I don't know.
Outside.
Okay. So I make a motion, there's a motion to go into closed session. And you supported? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, all right, there we go. So we're back, do we need a motion to go to open session now, or on this?
Yeah, make a motion to go.
Motion to go to open session.
I'll support.
Supported by Otto, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So, this is where I get to
Do you want me to
this.
make the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll make the motion to authorize, James, I'm gonna mess up his name. Vitrino, to move forward with all recommended candidates, for interviews on the 15th and on the 17th, as discussed. Support.
Are your microphones on? The red lights? Yours wasn't. Can you repeat the motion again? I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I will make the motion to recommend to James Vitrino Consulting that he move forward with all the recommended candidates for interviews on the 15th and on the 17th.
Supported by Manley. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on, any citizen comment? Seeing none. Any board member comments, clarifications? No? I make a motion to adjourn the closed session. Supported by Manley. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. like to call this Northfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order, March 25th, 2025. Please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance at the rear. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Manley, can you please call roll?
Donner?
Here.
Chick? Here. Otto?
Here.
Roman?
Here.
Manley? Here. Moko? Here. And Olney is absent with notice.
Thank you. Make a motion, we approve the minutes from March 11th, 2025, and dispense with reading.
I'll support, oh, I have a correction.
You could still support.
I support.
Support by Chick. Any questions, comments, corrections? Go ahead.
Okay, on page 3, item number 8, second paragraph, Olney said he has a problem with this because it has not been presented to Parks and Rec. That should be Planning Commission, is that correct?
No, he said,
Where are you at again? I'm sorry.
Item 8, second paragraph, second sentence.
Okay.
Is it supposed to be Parks and Recs?
yeah.
Really? Okay.
So it's correct? Okay. Any others? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented. Supported by Manley. Any questions, comments on any of those items? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Make a motion, we adopt the balance of the agenda. Supported by Manley. Ms. Manley, is your mic on? Thank you. Supported by Manley. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Petitions and communications. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Trustees may do so now for a period of 3 minutes. There's still a time where you could, if you're here to speak about the public hearing, you can still do that later in the meeting.
I don't think we're on YouTube.
I'm sorry?
We're not online,
There's a delay sometimes.
is there?
I've got everything right, I think.
Nothing. It just says it's waiting. Maybe it'll kick on in a minute or so.
Okay, if you can let me know. Just a moment, please. Ms. Manley's is showing. Yes. Thank you. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Trustees? Seeing none, we'll move on. In that case, there's no clarifications from the board members. Correspondence, none. Do you have a public hearing tonight? Consideration of conditional land use at request of Detroit Riverside Capital and Shostak Brothers and Company on behalf of Gold Corridor 23 LLC for 65.46 acre parcel. Tax ID number B0220400003. Located on the south side of East North Territorial Road, east of the US 23 interchange. Applicant is proposing to construct 328 multifamily residential units and approximately 8,000 square foot multi-tenant commercial building with a drive-through restaurant use. The parcel is zoned GC, General Commercial District, and is located in the WLNT. It's a Whitmore Lake North Territorial Overlay District. Retail uses are permitted by right in the GC district, while the drive-through use and the multifamily residential use are permitted as conditional land uses under GC district and the overlay district respectively. So in that case, I make a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll support.
Supported by Otto. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. I'd like to start with presentation by Detroit Riverside. Bear with me a second. I'll see what I have to do here to get your connection going.
That's on.
That's, I know, Adam did that too.
It's showing, yep.
Okay. Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. My name is Michael Wayne. I'm a partner with Detroit Riverside Capital, and we are one of the developers proposing the roads of Whitmore Lake. And we've spent some time with the Planning Commission and shared exhaustive details about this project. So tonight I'm just going to go through the high-level points, that I feel like are the most important points to share with you all. And certainly if you have any questions or want me to go into further detail on anything, I'm more than happy to. Every great project starts with a strong development team, and that is certainly what we bring to the table. As I mentioned, Detroit Riverside Capital is a multifamily development firm. We focus on bringing multifamily housing to areas in need of high-quality housing options. We're a family business. We're hardworking. We have a small team, and we align a lot with what we feel, or what we've interpreted are the values of Northfield Township in the time that we've spent. And we're partnered on this project with Showstack Brothers, who are also a family business, but unlike us, much older and much larger firm. They've built billions of dollars of real estate throughout Southeast Michigan and beyond, and they bring decades of experience. So together we make a really strong team. We also work with a group of very strong consultants, and some of them are shown on the screen there. So with that comes a very thoughtfully well-designed project that is in line with the ordinance and master plan in Northfield Township, and we'll share more on that here tonight. First, I want to give you a little context of the site. Now, many of you may be familiar with this property. It is located on the south side of North Territorial Road, just to the east of US 23. It's a 65-acre parcel in total, shaped in a reverse L. The site is partially wooded, partially open. It has two wetland features that are both regulated by Eagle. These were major elements considered during the design phase of our project. The wooded areas of the site are predominantly on the eastern property boundary as well as the southern property boundary. And the existing zoning of this parcel is general commercial. It also sits in the overlay district, North Territorial Road, Whitmore Lake Overlay District. And as a result of that, it provides for the multifamily use that we are seeking on a portion of the project. As far as the master plan is concerned, it envisions this site as mixed use, which calls for a mix of uses, one of which being residential development. And within the master plan, it also talks about some of the primary goals, one of those being residential development. We feel this is a great site for that use. Now, the Groves of Whitmore site plan is predominantly situated in the northwest portions of the site. It features 328 residential units as well as 8,000 square feet of retail space. And some of the key design considerations when developing the site plan were first and foremost the natural feature preservation. As I mentioned, there's some existing trees on the site and some wetland spaces, and so we deliberately wanted to design the project to preserve as many of those areas as possible. And so we've situated all 28 acres of the developed area in the areas that least impact these natural features. The development intensity of the proposed site plan is very reasonable. It's only 28 acres of a 65-acre site, so it's roughly about 40% developed and about 60% preserved. Open space was a major consideration during our site design as well, and we've accommodated that through a number of open spaces between the residential buildings, throughout the, I'll call it the core of the site plan, and then most predominantly in the southern portion of the site, where there's beautiful 20-acre mature tall trees. And in that area, we've accented that natural area by proposing a network of nature trails. These, we think, will be a huge amenity to our residents for walking, biking, and the like. We also intend to be a pet-friendly community, so we've included a dog park in the site plan, which you can see highlighted there on the right side. And also, part of the Whitmore Lake overlay asks for a site design feature. And so in this case, we've created a pocket park near the entryway of the project. This is a really significant area because, of course, it's the entrance to the project, but it is also right along North Territorial Road. And so we wanted to highlight this with a space that both residents of the community, customers of the retail, and also members of the community could enjoy. And it's located just adjacent to the retail, so it becomes a really nice place for community engagement and so forth. What you see on screen now is a demonstration of the developed area of the site. So the green boundary on the photo on the left side demonstrates the disturbed area of the property. Everything outside of that green line is intended to be preserved throughout the construction of the project. And so it works out to be roughly a 40-60 ratio between the developed area and the preserved area. Now, I mentioned preserved. We feel that the area to the south is a very important feature of the community, and we intend to preserve it in perpetuity. We were asked at Planning Commission to consider a conservation easement on this portion of land, and we have decided to do that. And so I'll share some more details on that later tonight. Now, here are just a couple of renderings of the project. This would be the site entrance as you enter off North Territorial Road. You can see both the boulevard entryway with significant landscaping on both sides of it. And right as you enter, you're welcomed by our 6,000 square foot amenity space, which I have some more details on in a moment. And then you can see how the buildings fill in the space beyond that. Here's a view of the retail space as you're heading westbound on North Territorial Road. Another view of that amenity center. Here's the south side of the amenity center, and what you can see here is some of the outdoor amenities that we've included, and then also the retention pond there in the foreground. This is another internal site view, and so this just shows kind of the expansiveness of the development. As you can see, it really blends with its natural features around it, and doesn't overburden or isn't too dense in any one area. It has nice spacing in between each of the developed areas. This is a rendering of our white oak building design. The architectural elements of this, I have some more details on in a moment, but in general, the intention was that with this design was really to meet kind of that rural character that we've identified with Northfield Township. And we feel that this design, both the size of the building as well as some of the architectural features and materials we've included, do exactly that. Second building design we have, where we refer to as the black walnut, and this is an example of that. I mentioned that amenity space. This is really the heart of the community and a significant aspect of the project. And so some of the features included in here are, of course, the leasing office, but also a resident lounge, co-working spaces, a dog wash facility, a mail receiving room, a 3 Seasons room, golf simulator, and a fitness center. As for the commercial space, it totals about 8,000 square feet of rentable space. This could be anywhere from 3 to 5 tenants. And the expected uses include a restaurant or service-based businesses. These are really intended to service the community and the needs of those communities. The exact users of the retail will be determined by the market during our leasing process, following the entitlement process, but the intention is to bring either food or service-based businesses that can cater to this community. And the design of this building, as you're noticing, is very similar to the residential aspects. We've used a lot of the same materials and really attempted to make it a cohesive design between both the retail, residential, and the amenity space. And all of that together is what creates this cohesive mixed-use development, which is a requirement of both the future land use as well as the overlay district. Here's another view of that black walnut building design. So at the top there, you see the elevation. Every unit has both an exterior entrance. The ones on the first floor also have a small patio area. These are all fenced in. So I mentioned the intention is to be a pet-friendly community, and so these fenced-in areas provide for small dog runs for tenants to let the dogs out without having to worry about them running off. The middle floor plans there just give you an idea of the building's layout. One key design feature of this building is that we incorporated internal parking by way of single-car garages for about half the units in this building, so there's 11 in total. Those connect directly into those units, and that is a significantly demanded amenity that we're seeing more in the multifamily design space today. And surrounding that is the remainder of the parking. So any of the units that don't have a garage directly attached to it would just simply park in the surface lot spaces surrounding. Now, the unit mix of this building includes studios, 1 bedrooms, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. And quantities of each of those are listed there below, as well as the 11 garages I mentioned. Now, the white oak building design is similar, has 1 less unit compared to black walnut, also has 10 of those internal garages. And here we have just 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom units. And so these were really designed this way to solve for a final unit mix. The vast majority of the units are 1 and 2 bedrooms, and the minority are studios and 3 beds. And that ratio is a combination of art and, well, science and a little bit of art trying to solve for the exact unit mix. As I've described, these were very thoughtfully designed. A lot of time, attention, and research went into not only the look of the building, but also the size of the spaces and the floor plan design. And so the studio units, they average about 510 square feet, and they represent roughly 7% of the total units. 1 bedrooms average 770 and represent about 40%. 2 bedrooms about 50%, and about 1,000 square foot average, and then the 3 beds about 5% and 1,400 square feet in size. What's really important to understand is that the expected demographic who rents in a unit like this or a community like this are high contributing members to your community. The starting rent price on a studio apartment, as an example, would be in the range of about $1,300 to $1,400. And it would scale up based on unit size to mid-2000s on the 3-bedroom units. And so these units are high-end, they're high quality, and they command a high-quality resident to live in them. And so what you're getting is, again, high contributing members to the community. There's sometimes misnomers or misinterpretations of the quality of residents that live in apartment buildings. And, these are doctors, nurses, business people that are simply looking for a place that gives them more flexibility, gives them the ability to not have to deal with maintenance throughout the house, and allows them to enter your community and maybe grow that family and become homeowners or permanent members of the community. It's that transitional step between initial living accommodation and homeownership. And so that's really important to understand about the types of residents that are going to be joining your community. Now, Planning Commission, there was some question about the road improvements on North Territorial Road, so we just wanted to highlight those for you here tonight. First and foremost, this was driven by a traffic impact study that we had completed by Fleece and Vanderbrink, and the excerpt there at the top is kind of a summary, but I'll just give you the salient point, which is the result of the TIA study indicates that there will be negligible impact and additional delay for traffic along North Territorial Road with the addition of the site-generated traffic from the proposed development. And so as a result of that, the micro simulations that they ran through this study determined that no signalization would be required. Essentially, it didn't meet the threshold for volume of delay to require signalization. However, it did suggest turning lanes both on the eastbound and westbound sides of North Territorial Road. And so the diagram on screen demonstrates those. And so this is all done within the Washtenaw County Road Commission right-of-way on North Territorial Road. And so this permitting and approval for these improvements happens all through the purview of Washtenaw County. But these are the types of road improvements that you can expect. Now, Planning Commission, we received unanimous approval with the following conditions. And so I just reviewed these with you and explained to you kind of the status of each one as we progress. The first was an installation of a decorative fence around the retention pond for safety. We agree, this is a good idea. So this will be added to our final site plan when we submit back for Planning Commission. The second is a comprehensive proposal from the applicant to address woodland ordinance requirements through combination of tree replacement, payment in the tree fund, and/or approval of variance by ZBA. So as of last week, Wednesday, we submitted a very exhaustive request for variance to the ZBA, and we expect to be on the April 21st ZBA meeting for consideration. The third condition was a discussion of establishment of a conservation easement for the southern portion of the property. As I indicated earlier, we intend to do so, and this is incorporated or established through that variance request. The fourth is site plan approval, and we are targeting a May PC meeting for final site plan, pending the outcome of tonight and our ZBA meeting on the 21st. Now, the fifth condition was that the applicant work with the property owner of the parcels adjacent on the east to install a fence or other feasible solution to address any safety concerns with the input of Eagle. We certainly understand the Planning Commission's concern with respect to the use to the east being a marijuana grow facility and the importance of ensuring safety and security between our property borders. Now, in between that meeting and tonight, I went out to the site and I took a couple of pictures because I felt like it was important to show this board the existing conditions of the site and some of the feasibility challenges as it relates to the boundary between our two properties. And so what you see here is our current east property line. Now, these are very mature trees in excess of 60 or 70 feet tall. The vast majority of these trees will be preserved throughout our construction. In total, we're preserving about 91% of all the trees throughout the site plan, and these are a vast majority of them. And so there was some question during Planning Commission about the existing buffering or the proposed buffering, and the existing buffering is extensive. This is a further back view, but when you're standing in the middle of those trees, this is what you're looking at. This is a very densely populated treed area. And essentially where I'm standing when I took this photo is at the exact boundary that our building would end. So between us and the east property neighbor is all the trees you see on screen here. Now, sure, the first 20 feet or so of that picture are going to be removed to do the grading for our buildings and also install the danger path that surrounds our property. But the vast majority of what you see there will remain and will serve as a permanent boundary between us and that east property. Now, following our meeting, we received a proposal from our neighbors to the east. And within this proposal, it was anything but reasonable. It was dramatic. And what you see here is essentially the shared east boundary between us and them, as well as the shared southern boundary. Their parcel kind of wraps around ours, and so our whole east boundary and south boundary are all shared. Everything that you see in those yellow boxes are areas that they are requesting or strongly suggesting improvements. And while the condition described a fence or an other feasible solution, and was specifically describing something reasonable, this proposal is anything but reasonable. It's extremely extensive. I mean, first and foremost, it asks for a 10-foot tall fence on the entire property boundary, both the east and south portions of the property. But it doesn't stop there. It goes beyond that to request hedgerows and a number of other landscape features along those boundaries. So I know it's rather small on screen, but essentially everywhere you see a little circle, these are just blown up portions of each of those boxes I showed, and so everywhere you see a circle is where it's asking for additional landscape cover. But as I showed in the first picture, this area is already extremely wooded. So not only can we not fit a fence there, but there's also already trees there. And so the volume of trees that it's requesting is extensive. And so what I've demonstrated on this slide is essentially where our property boundary exists. And on the left side is looking north, on the right side is looking south. As you can see, there's no place there to locate a fence or additional plantings. This is already a very densely wooded area. And so without removing hundreds of additional trees, a fence on the property line is not a feasible solution. And as we've mentioned throughout this presentation and throughout our whole process here in Northfield, tree preservation has been paramount, and we've worked very hard to get to the level of preservation that we've presented. So the idea of removing additional trees to install a fence is unreasonable and doesn't align with the vision or ordinances of the township. Now this was taken just on the other side of our property line on our neighbor's property, and so what you can see here is there's an existing berm on the east property, on our east neighbor's property, just adjacent to the existing building. And as their proposed landscape plan suggests, they're seeking some additional buffering and screening from our use and theirs. And I would contend this berm is a phenomenal place to add additional landscape buffering. I mean, 12 or 15 tall evergreen trees on that berm, and that building goes away. It becomes invisible from the east property, from our property. So the buffering between this existing berm and the existing tree cover already exists and is sufficient, in our opinion, given the inability to create other solutions. And so what we're asking with respect to this condition is to either remove it on the basis of what I've described tonight, or amend this condition to ensure that any solution that's described between us and our neighbors does not result in any additional tree removal. I feel that would be counter to the objectives of the township and certainly our objectives of nature preservation throughout this project. And so in conclusion, the Groves brings a number of benefits to Northfield. It's compliant with existing zoning ordinance and master plan. The site plan is designed to accent natural features. We propose high-quality, cohesive architectural design. We bring critical housing supply to the community, as well as critical commercial space. And we offer notable benefits to the existing community members. And so with that, I just want to say thank you for your time this evening. Happy to expand on any portions of this, and look forward to hearing your feedback.
Thank you. Let's see here. Bear with me a minute. Mr. Wayne, did you disconnect your? All right, thank you. So after the presentation, turn the camera to full screen. It's full screen. Disconnected light switch. Good. I don't know what's going on. Picture not showing up on there. That's what's on YouTube too, is what's on this screen. Am I missing something? Before it's full screen. I'm sorry, what was that?
Ejected it properly.
Okay,
I think I was supposed to click a button.
okay, please, thank you.
Right.
Something happened. It wasn't,
As it is, they're already paying like $1 million for the trees.
he's just got it this poor, right?
Keisha's concern is somebody's gonna wander over there.
If you just disconnect it, does it do anything?
How about turning off the Bluetooth?
It's powered by that.
No, his Bluetooth on his computer. It'll kill it.
Does Brian need to do a presentation, or can he just move on?
Yeah, he's still connected.
That's on these presets, these, that camera.
Can you just simply it?
So this is the one that it has to be.
Jordan? It's, yeah, it's showing, our meeting's showing
showing.
online, but that's, yeah.
But typically, if we don't have it shown in here, usually it's not showing online, so I don't know.
It is. It's on.
Okay. Very good. Maybe if you just disconnect, Mr. Wayne, it might just take time. I'm not sure. So as long as we're still showing, right, on YouTube? Yeah, I got it on full screen now, so give it a second. Is it changing at all? It's good? All right, we'll continue on. Thank you. Mr. Jackson, please, from McKenna.
board members. So everyone should have received Vidya's review letter that she submitted to the Planning Commission and was sort of the basis for our recommendation to the Planning Commission to recommend this project to the Township Board. I'm not going to go over the whole thing in detail, but I just want to summarize a few points. This property is shown in the Township's master plan as mixed use. This is an area where the Township was proactive and designated it with a zoning overlay district that allows for a mix of land uses consistent with the goals and objectives in the Township's master plan. So generally, this particular area, the purpose of which is to promote mixed uses with an emphasis on commercial service, office, research, technology uses, and related high-density residential uses consistent with the Township master plan. It's also the purpose of the district to enhance the streetscape, create pedestrian pathways and outdoor spaces, and promote high-quality architecture. So those are sort of the key elements that we reviewed this project by and made our recommendation to the Planning Commission, and they subsequently reviewed it with those parameters as well. The multiple family portion of this project does require special or conditional approval, as does the drive-through. The multiple family portion of this, we felt was consistent with the objectives of this mixed-use district. Given the size of the property, unrealistic really to have sort of the residential over commercial throughout the entire property. So this approach where they have commercial located at the frontage of the property and residential located behind it was the ideal way to handle the mixed use desires and policies of the master plan. So in general, we felt that the multiple family and the drive-through use was consistent with the desires for this district. Next is whether it was consistent with the general character of the area. Again, this area is relatively undeveloped. The area that's to the east of this property is designated as industrial and we know has a marijuana grow facility on it. So we took that into consideration as well in terms of the compatibility and felt based on the way the site is laid out with a significant amount of natural features being maintained along the eastern portion of the property, that the relationship of the two uses was reasonable. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. The environmental impacts was another aspect of conditional uses that we considered and the Planning Commission considered. As you heard from the applicant, they are establishing a conservation easement on a significant portion of this property. There are other portions of this property that will, within the developed portion, that do also have sensitive environmental features, wetlands as well as woodlands. And we want to make sure that we, to the maximum amount possible, integrate the development of this with those remaining natural features. And that's going to be something that the Planning Commission looks at in great detail when this goes back for site plan approval, which is, if you do send this forward, we'll go back to the Planning Commission for detailed site plan review. Let's see. Other things in the conditional land use analysis had to do with the impact on the township's infrastructure. They're providing infrastructure improvements to provide water. This property is within the planned sewer area within the township, so again, it's well situated to support this level of development. You don't anticipate any hazards coming as a result of this. They've worked hard to minimize any traffic impacts, citing the drive-through appropriately so it won't have impacts on North Territorial and minimal impacts on the internal circulation roads within the development. So, with all that, we had recommended to the Planning Commission approval for the conditional land use. We did have, as it was mentioned, a number of conditions on this, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of those. The easy one is that some of these details will be worked out when it goes back for site plan approval. So a condition of this conditional land use is final site plan approval. One of the other conditions on this is they are going to have to work with the township in order to address the woodland preservation issue, and they're going to put the new ordinance to the test in terms of how many different ways and different methods they're going to be able to use to make sure they meet the township's new standards, which they've committed to. But they may have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for some relief due to the unique nature of this property. They mentioned the installation of the decorative fencing around the detention area. Again, Planning Commission will determine exactly what that's going to look like, make sure it's consistent with the overall character of the development and the rural character of the community. Which brings us basically to the final one, which is the screening along the east property line. As you can see by the Planning Commission's recommendation where they said, work with your neighbor and work with Eagle to try to find a reasonable solution to address the concern of people, security, maybe people going on the adjacent property or impacts between the two properties on each other. Based on, again, the unique character of this property and the natural features there and the way this property is laid out, we don't anticipate that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to cross that property line. So what basically we're suggesting is a condition of this approval is that the applicant work to address the Planning Commission's concern by identifying specific areas along that property line where that sort of interaction may come into play without disrupting the natural features. In other words, we don't want them tearing up existing trees to plant more trees. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We don't want them running a large-scale impact wall through a wetland. That doesn't seem to be consistent with the priorities in good site planning. But there may be a couple areas where their pathway comes close to the property line along a scarcely wooded area or an upland area that a fence may be appropriate. So we're looking for the Township Board to add a condition on this that the applicant will continue to work with the township through the Planning Commission to develop an appropriate way to address the relationship between this use, the adjacent use, given the unique characteristics along that property line of natural features. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Ms. Otto?
So I wanted to know on the conservative conservation easement, is that wetlands?
I think it's a combination of wetlands, uplands, and heavily wooded areas.
Okay, all right. Because I was wondering why, if it wasn't wetlands, why we were even considering a conservation area in there. I guess that's what I'm asking, why the,
And because of there's a lot of trees in there, we want to preserve as many trees as possible, and there is wetlands, but it's a mix of each, it's not
okay,
a
all right,
wetland, right?
okay. And then the applicant working with the property owner on the adjacent property, what part does Quiche Farm have to put into this? What are we expecting from the farm to put into it?
Nothing.
Oh, so we're putting all the heavy lifting on the gross?
Yes.
That's not a bad point. I mean, the adjacent property owner is more than able to put up any kind of security that they feel is necessary as long as it meets the township's fence height requirements and things of that nature. There's nothing stopping them from doing that.
And the same for Eagle. I mean, if, this is all based on Eagle. If Eagle wants them to secure it, it really should be on the
Eagle is
farm.
not dictating any of
Okay, then,
it. We just want to make sure that we don't disrupt any of the natural features, which
well, that was
Eagle
my
would
concern too.
be Eagle's concern too.
Yeah. So if you're going to disrupt it on their property, not on this one. Sorry. I'm just making a comment.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Downey from OHM, do you have a comment?
Good evening, guys. Yeah, pretty short and sweet from OHM side on the engineering here. Really, we don't have any issues at this stage in the game. The site functions properly. Really, the only comment from a functionality standpoint is we would just like to see the developer maybe take a look at the commercial retail space and, you know, if there is a drive-through lane, maybe look at the configuration of that to make it more efficient. But besides that, there's no showstoppers. They understand they got to work with the County Road Commission, and they're well on their way to getting approval from there. That looks pretty good. And then just all other approvals through Eagle and the county. But yeah, like I said, right now, we don't have any stopping comments. Everything, you know, we would recommend approval contingent upon some of these really minor comments we had in our last letter, which was about a year ago regarding these plans. But yeah, like I said, pretty good. No issues on our end at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor, board members. When this was going through the site plan review, I did get a single question from the planning commissioner and one of the board members about sewer capacity on North Territorial, of which I was not concerned about sewer capacity, but unfortunately, I expected to be invited to a more thorough review in the wastewater plant capacity, because this is a very big development in terms of REUs, and I just think it's important that the board at least see how things are developing in that area before you take action on any of the applicants that are being considered. So what I will do is...
Date, so I guess I would, I mean, if you want to apply it to the Groves, if you think it's fitting, but,
That is why I did prepare it,
okay,
because of the
very good.
large number of REUs.
Okay. Continue, please.
I can stick around and certainly answer questions on that item as well, but
Thank you.
I just plugged this in and it should...
Yeah, well, we're trying to make it work, yeah. Hang on a second. You might have to do something on your, something like, click share.
I'll look at yours.
Hang on a second. Okay. Switch. Click share. Stream layout. Change the camera view to video source full screen.
You broke it.
I think certainly most of the board have the material in front of them, but
Yeah.
it's the audience and the public that would be missing out.
Is this showing that? Are you powered on the device? Is that device have a powered on button? Okay. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Are you on Bluetooth on your computer?
Do I connect to a Bluetooth device?
Yeah, that device.
Connect to this.
Yep.
It'll remember it the second time. Gotta do it.
I did too. That's how I read it.
The picture in picture.
The thing I see is a MacBook.
Didn't change on your, I don't know what though.
So can I ask a question while we're waiting? So my understanding is that the Groves proposal is in a already designated SAD, and that there were already RUs allotted to that SAD? As,
I'm not aware of any allocation of REUs that occurred, but they certainly were part of the original North Territorial Special Assessment
right.
SAD. That is absolutely correct.
Okay, so when we got previous presentations, when we were told how many RUs were available, we actually had the Green Oak obligations ferreted out, and then we also had the SAD amount ferreted out. So, and then we got what was available.
Yeah, there wasn't much available.
No.
You were overprescribed, actually, if everything developed. And that was just based on the land use, a certain number of REUs for certain land use.
Yes.
So we're back to showing, so if you want to continue, it's just, we won't be able to put it on the screen.
Very good. So I just, you know, as part of my reviews for Northfield Township, I do maintain a computer model that I like to update as developments occur. And that helps answer certain questions as we go. There's actually been quite a bit of activity in the North Territorial area here in the last 6 months or so. So in 2015, we were commissioned to look at capacity of various places in Northfield Township, the sewer system. And we estimated about 1,200 REUs of capacity were available at the North Territorial Pump Station. That's been consistent for 10 years that I've spoken to you about that. So the Groves was actually the last one that I was aware of that was occurring. I was more invited at Chestnut and Woodfield and Robertson earlier in the game. So I tabulated all the ones that I am aware of are under consideration, including about 102 REUs that are currently connected to the North Territorial system. And I'm at a total of about 1,261, so roughly equivalent to the capacity of the pump station. So my conclusion is that if all 3 or 4 of these developments under consideration are approved, that pump station will be largely at its current capacity.
Okay.
There are things that we can do, and in fact, when that was built in 2000, it was always built with the idea that someday it would need to be expanded. There's room there to add more space on the wet well, there's room there to add more pumps, and it was always anticipated that a second force main would be built from North Territorial Road up to 8 Mile when that day came. So it is in the long-term vision that that day will come at some point. And I guess my conclusion is you're not far away from that if you proceed with all these developments under consideration. Then looking at the plant, we estimated that in 2015 that there's about 1,500 REUs that can connect to the plant. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It's really been over darn near 30 years by the last time somebody's looked at that plant long and hard. And that number, 1,500, is based on just a rating that the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy provides you at 1.3 million gallons per day. So that's a 30-year-old number, really, that we're working with. So again, 1,200 to 1,268 REUs in the North Territorial area. That will consume a good chunk of what may be left at your plant. I just wanted you to be aware that that means that if growth were to continue, we're probably looking at a big pump station project and a big wastewater treatment plant project.
So with Green Oak, we didn't renew their contract. So is the 1,500 considered in part of that, or is that because we gave up the Green Oak, it adds more to it?
I understand your question.
Okay. I probably didn't say it right, but,
No, I completely understand. I'm trying
Okay.
I want to answer it correctly. It's 1,500 regardless of where it comes from.
okay. All right.
So I must have did a good job. Yeah.
So I have a question. We were recently talking about upgrades at the plant requiring, Mr. McDonald would probably recall, I'm going to say filters, I don't know if there are filters that would also increase the capacity at the plant. Are we in the process of getting those, or have we gotten them?
That's a very timely question.
Or is that in this?
We are advertising for bids Thursday.
Okay,
But there's a lot more that would need to be done at that.
sure, yeah.
So that's a great question. So
So-
you'll be hearing from me probably in May how that bidding period came.
Okay, so roughly, without actually expanding the plant, which we know is going to be about $18 million down the road, what kind of additional capacity are we looking at with just some, fixes that we're talking about?
Well, you will get a little bit more capacity out of the filters, but it's not like you can improve one area of the plant, not all the areas.
Right.
So I don't think it's materially going to increase the capacity of the plant.
Okay.
I would say it's more going to maintain what you have with a newer, more reliable technology.
Okay, and since at some point, we're going to have, because we're doing the upgrades on one line, we're going to have to do upgrades to increase the size of the lines on the west side of Whitmore Lake Road at some point, yes or no?
Yeah, and maybe I'd like to maybe separate that for the
Okay.
second discussion, because that doesn't impact the groves.
Okay,
Yeah, if we could stick more with what because we're on their public hearing, so more what relates to them.
This
Yeah.
relates to all of the development.
Understand.
So again, I had a very short set of slides. Improving the pump station, the force main, could be somewhere around $9 million.
Okay.
It's not an inexpensive endeavor.
So with the groves going in,
Yep.
just on that section over there, we would be done with any additional sewer unless we would, if somebody wanted to come in, like next door, we would have to add additional development on the sewer plant.
If you eventually approve all three of those big groupings of development, the second phase of Chestnut and Woodfield and another name,
And the grove, yeah.
and the Groves and the Robertson, which I think is called Northfield Preserve now.
right.
If you were to approve all of those, yes, the next development in would really push you towards doing something with the pump station.
Okay.
But they would have to do that, if a developer came in and wanted, he would have to pay for that infrastructure improvement, or they just don't get in.
Somebody has to make that
Pay for it.
improvement.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can speak to that policy, but yes.
That's my policy.
That's my policy.
That's my policy.
And then I just wanted to be clear, the plant isn't going to be too much farther behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Brian and I have been talking about really looking at that plant much harder, because it's been 30 years since we've really looked at it process by process. Is it, all those systems are 30 years older than the last time they were looked at. Are they performing like they should? Or maybe it's better than we programmed, or maybe it's not. But we really need to look at all those carefully as you're getting that close. When you were 1,000 REUs away, it wasn't that big of an issue, but we really need to start looking at it closer now. So we'd like to come back in April and share our thoughts on that. But since I didn't get a chance to write a letter to the Planning Commission about all this, Supervisor Roman and I spoke, and I asked perhaps I should come tonight and just make sure you had that information as you proceed. That's my sole.
Well, if that study got sent to the Planning Commission, so they have this,
They have the letter, they don't have my PowerPoint.
right?
My PowerPoint really is about the groves and and the neighbors, so. And that's all I had
Okay.
for this part, so thank you.
Thank you. So get to anyone that would like to, it's a public hearing, so anyone wishing to address the topic may do so for a period of 3 minutes. Just please state your name.
Thank you. I am Dan Troika. I'm an attorney at Conlon McKinney Philbrick, and I represent the neighbor to the east and to the south. We have one large parcel that wraps around this development. We did place an objection with the Planning Commission on grounds of whether this is harmonious with the area. To our opinion, it's not. That corridor on North Territorial to the east of 23 is currently all commercial and industrial. This is mixed use, but it's really almost primarily residential. So there will be a change in character. We don't think it's a good fit, but Planning Commission recommended it did, but I am registering our objection. In the course of the Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission considered and made a recommendation that we work together with boundary issues, including fencing. We did send last week a proposed plan. The comments that I heard from this podium are the first feedback we've gotten. Okay, so they didn't like our first offer. That's not the first time it's happened. However, it's absolutely critical that that condition stay in place. I mean, we have to have some mechanism for working with them. Otherwise, there's going to be a significant problem, and, you know, and frankly, we'd have to see judicial resolution if it came to that. We don't want it. There's already a process in place via the condition they put or recommended from the Planning Commission, so we ask you keep that in place. Planning Commission isn't going to be compelled, and we're not going to ask for anything that we think would be unreasonable, but for now, this is to keep, you know, their feet to the fire, our feet to the fire, so we address a real pressing issue before it becomes a problem. So we do ask if you're going to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation of the conditional use approval, that you also accept their recommendation so that we can continue the process, and hopefully I can actually get an engineer's response. I no disrespect to Mr. Wayne, but I think, like me, we're not really competent to go through the details of a landscape plan. That does need to happen. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be a big problem for everyone, and the township will regret it. I don't mean that as a threat. I just mean there are going to be problems, and this is the way to proactively address them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Make a motion, we close the public hearing. Supported by Manley. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. So we go on to item 1A, is to approve with conditions or deny conditional land use request by Detroit Riverside Capital and Shostak Brothers and Company on behalf of Gold Corridor 23 LLC for the drive-through restaurant use and multiple family residential use on parcel B0220400003. Comments, questions from the trustees? Any? Ms. Chick?
I don't have a problem with approving. I would like to see number 4 kept in, especially the portion of it that speaks to Eagle. That does not mean that the applicant, in my mind, is obligated to do anything without some additional work for going forward on this.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, resolution.
can you, I didn't get your point. Can you restate it?
I'm okay with the motion to approve
Okay,
for the Groves, but I would like the conditions to remain the same from the Planning Commission, especially number 4. I know there was a request to not keep it in, but I think there can still be time to work with the neighbor on, and with Eagle in particular, about a possible buffering solution that would be amenable to both of them and possibly include the property to the east, helping to pay for something if that's the direction they decide to go. This doesn't mean that the applicant is obligated to put a fence up. This just means, I think, further study and work with your neighbor is probably warranted.
right, and I agree, and it's also a site plan item. It's not,
Yes.
it's actually the site plan item that can be worked on in the future. Mr. Jackson, is that correct?
But there should be some direction from the board
Yes. And so so if we were to reflect the Planning Commission's item 4 to the McKenna report number 4, it's basically, it's very close to what you wanted. Yours was to the effect that work with the adjacent property owner with consideration of natural features and the Planning Commission upon site plan review. Is that adequate? Touches upon what you presented, right? So I agree, there's multiple things happening there, and there's interest on both sides of that property line, but I think it needs to be worked out with the attention to the natural features, obviously some wetlands and some other issues there, but really, you know, I would, if I'm going to make the motion, I'd like to add that onto the conditions, so I think that would cover that. But other than that, though, I don't have any other concerns. Does anyone else?
The only
Ms. Otto, I'm
The only
sorry.
concern that I have for number 4 is that it can't be one-sided, it has to be both. And if there is any consideration of putting any type of barrier, then it's a consideration of both and not just one. So I'm, like, if there is a consideration to put up a fence or any type of barrier, that this isn't all put on to one one owner of the property. It has to be both property owners that have to bear the,
I'm just trying to work it into, yeah, work
I
it
know.
into
And
how the
I don't know how to
language-
work that in, but if you're making this a joint working project, then it's a joint working project monetarily too.
Mr. Jackson, do you have a suggestion on that? If you could step up to the podium? Thank you. So we have it.
I guess the term we're looking for here is mutually agreeable solution.
Right. That could be it.
I think maybe that's the terminology that covers both, you know, what it's going to end up looking like and who's going to be paying for it.
Right, exactly. That's what I
Exactly.
said.
I just thought about that on the walk up here. That was
Thank you.
Give me a second, I'm trying to jot something down so I can make it a motion.
And Eagle's going to have to be a big determiner, too.
So you want to put a burden on the current property owner of the industrial site because somebody wants to build apartments next to a pot growing operation?
It could have been anything. It could have been a grocery store. It could have been anybody. They would still have the same problem.
The fence is not
Has to be
required.
mutually beneficial. It doesn't necessarily put a burden on the existing property owner.
No.
If it's money out of their pocket, it does.
Exactly. So they could eventually concede that the existing site plan, it will be enough of a deterrent to keep people from going on their property, and it won't cost them anything. So they've got the full range of options at their disposal. They can put money up if they want to have a more secure, you know, and they wouldn't have to pay 100% of it either. As I mentioned, I think there's going to be some obligation on the applicant to provide some separation in some areas. But if that's not sufficient for the adjacent property owner, then they can augment it with their own investment. So kind of a win-win situation.
And my comment is not just because it's the Groves that's going in there. It's anybody who's buying that property. They would be in the same situation. That's how I'm looking at it.
If it was more industrial, you wouldn't have,
You don't know.
kids looking for more pot over there or whatnot.
So
Industrial's not allowed on this property.
Right.
so a fence isn't even required. This is just an ask by the property owner to the east.
Right.
Right, okay.
It's a mother may I.
Planning Commission asked for it. That's what it,
To study it. They
That's
didn't
right, but the
require a
ordinance-
fence.
The
yeah.
ordinance wouldn't require
Right.
a developer to put a fence on this property.
We're trying to make everybody happy by putting the condition in it.
And that's why they put working with the property owner, not requiring.
So I think I have something here, but, so I'll make a motion to approve with conditions the request conditional land use request by Detroit Riverside Capital and Shostak Brothers and Company on behalf of Gold Corridor 23 LLC for the drive-through restaurant use and multiple family residential use with the conditions of the McKenna memo dated February 11th, 2025. Conditions being the comprehensive proposal from the applicant to address the woodland ordinance requirements through combination of tree replacement, payment into the tree fund, and/or of a variance, the zoning board of appeals. Number 2 is installation of decorative fencing around the retention ponds for safety, if deemed necessary by the planning commission for public safety. 3, site plan approval. Number 4, work with the adjacent property owner with consideration of natural features and the planning commission upon site plan review with mutual investment and interest by both property owners.
And can you add with the input of Eagle?
I will amend my motion by reflecting the planning commission recommendations, also with the planning commission recommendations from their meeting on February 19th, 2025, items 1 through 5.
Thank you.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay. Ms. Otto supports. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? You're opposed? Yes. Okay, thank you. It passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Old business, North Territorial Pump Station Sewer Capacity Study Update. Again, Mr. Rubel, would you like to continue on? I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, hello again. I really intended to talk mostly about the Groves tonight. Although I did complete a draft of the report that you asked me to do last month, I completed that just yesterday. So, and I believe that was distributed to you because I've gotten a few questions here tonight. I could answer any questions, but I certainly did not plan a formal presentation of that tonight. I could return a different night to do that.
You're referring to the review from yesterday?
Yes, the report dated March 24th.
Yeah, I would rather stay along the lines of the pump, what we had here. I don't want to address a particular development's review, because really that's not what's on our agenda.
Very good.
So
I'm game to come back another night and talk that in more detail.
thank you.
Yep.
So you don't have anything more than what you presented earlier, though?
That's correct.
Okay,
I expected to be part of the Groves, and I saw I was my own item on there, so.
No, I appreciate that, but this is all good information and all kind of interlocks, so it's, the more information the board receives, the better for future.
We'll return a different night, talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 2 is reviewed a bid from, for lawn care and snow removal services. Would someone like to make comment? Ms. Chick?
On the pruning item, contractor shall prune shrubs and trees as needed. Who makes a decision about what tree and what shrub is needed?
I don't know that, and when I asked, I don't think it's been done.
No, it hasn't been done.
So I think it was, so just as a brief overview of how we're at this document here, Jennifer took the old pricing list, or what we had as far as what went out and was quoted before, and made it into this document, which I think is more clear. The other one was just like an address and, this times this many pushes and stuff like, for snow.
Okay, so we're not specifically saying that they're going to, like, I definitely agree that the bushes in front of the building here need to be trimmed, and they don't get trimmed. Because,
Right,
yeah,
so-
they looked bad last year.
So I,
And the same with the community center.
just as a thought to what you're saying, though, in my opinion, typically, snow removal, lawn care, they're not into the landscaping
Right.
part of
Right.
it. So if you would like, we could also just do that. We could take that right out of this document.
I did.
And just address it as need be,
Yep.
as we see fit, for wherever it is.
Because one of the,
Because, I'm sorry, but I'm just saying how it got in this document was that it was included in the previous bid
Really?
sheets.
Okay.
Yeah. Although it may not have been done before.
That wasn't that.
Ms. Otto?
so one of the concerns that I have too is when they talk about maintenance of the wildflower beds maybe being tamed by our Park and Rec Board, we don't even know if those wildflower beds are going to even be there. And when we talk about the Parks and Rec, we have to have a long-term plan for maintenance, which would include landscaping and all that. So I agree with Janet, is that we should just take the landscaping, and with you, take the landscaping out of it,
And the bed maintenance?
and bed maintenance.
Can we be more specific so
Take
like we
3
can?
and 4 out of there.
So number 3 and 4,
Yep.
and actually number 5,
And 5, yeah.
because that would be more of a landscape
Yeah,
item.
that's more of a landscape,
But,
because it's
but-
spreading the mulch, that
okay.
type of thing.
Would be on
Okay,
an as-needed basis then, as opposed to part of this contract?
I would think so.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, as long as there's some
Just ask
plan.
them, right?
Someone's got to do it.
Well, yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily be the person that's doing the lawn and the
Yeah, I'm fine.
snow, or
Yeah, we
if
would
there's,
go
if
out
they end up,
separately with it.
if they end up being separate service from 2 different people, snow and lawn, we don't know that yet. But I think we could address any necessary landscaping items like bushes, pruning, stuff like that as needed on whichever building. Does it sound reasonable? Ms. Chick?
So can I make a comment, and I'm not going to win any friends with this comment, but for me, it's been a problem for a while. We're planting a lot of wildflowers, and basically wildflowers are weeds with flowers on top, and the flowers die, and all you got is a bunch of weedy-looking areas. Community garden looks terrible every year because of it. The plantings at the park are wildflowers, and when those start to fade, they look just like weeds. So can we just, I know that we're not allowed to not do natural plantings or actually say it. I mean, it's actually,
Part of your ordinance.
yeah, you can't say it, but I think we need to.
Change your ordinance.
I think we need to make a policy that where we can plant them or where we can't plant them or something, so that they're not just indiscriminately spreading seed wherever. Thank you.
Is your mic on, Mr. Donner?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, whatever you'd like to do with that.
Next meeting.
Yeah. Ms. Otto?
Because I'm going to just add to what you said, we also have wildflowers planted at the community center as well.
Yes.
And they look like weeds.
Other than eliminating those items, is there anything outstanding that we can't just scratch those 3 items and move on with the getting the bids?
I have one more question, probably.
Yes.
Mrs. Otto can actually answer it. In regard to the trails in the park area, I know that salt is not good for cement, and that we've been salting cement areas anyway, but are we considering salting the trails in the winter, in the park, even the cement and the gravel ones, or what's the plan for the trails in the park, for as far as clearing, if we're going to clear them at all?
I don't think it's necessary,
Thank you. Okay.
to be honest with you.
So how is that reflected in here, though?
It might be on, wait a minute.
I mean, I think that's something we can get to as needed
It's
too, as
in
we add more
Northfield
amenities.
Community Park, and in front of the park, paved pathways throughout the park is in there.
What page are we at?
3,
Page 3?
yep, under item 6, sidewalks, item number 5. Northfield Community Park, paved pathways throughout the park.
So, but we need to retain the sidewalks along Main Street
Yes,
at the front of the park,
yes,
but not the paved pathways.
correct.
Right, I would include parking lot and front sidewalk in front of the park.
Sidewalks along the vacant lots that are part of the park, where are you looking?
It's the front part. I would take out paved it's paved drive and parking lot, that's all it is.
Okay,
Doesn't
but-
say
Yeah, down
paved.
here.
Excuse me, so we're scratching paved pathways throughout the park.
Yes, and then sidewalk, what is, sidewalks along the vacant lots, what is that?
Wait a
Item
minute.
4, Appendix B.
I'm sorry,
The non-motorized 1-mile pathway,
yeah?
that is that what we're?
No, that's
that's,
Jenny-
that's the.
that's on
yeah,
Barker Road.
Never mind.
No, we're talking about the park itself, I guess.
I'm sorry,
The
I read it
pathways.
Yeah.
Sidewalks along the vacant lots that are part of the park.
That's good.
That'll
Yeah,
remain?
Scrapped out the paved pathways throughout the park.
Okay.
Oh, so I know where they're talking about, on Main Street, there's sidewalks along the vacant lots that are part of the park.
Right, and that,
That would have to be done.
yeah. I would just scratch out paved pathways throughout the park.
Okay, just that section on
Yeah.
there, and that's it.
Yeah, because you don't want to add any salt or things like that on there. I mean, people really shouldn't be walking through the park anyways.
Well, you don't salt gravel if it's gravel there.
know.
So it's, okay. So, safe to say, can I make a motion to authorize the bid for summer lawn care and winter maintenance service as proposed with the elimination of number 3, number 4, number 5 on page 1, and the elimination of the paved pathways throughout the park and sidewalks, number 5.
And are we leaving the deadline date as April 14th?
Yeah.
I think we need to.
Okay, that's cool.
Is there support?
Donner,
I'll support.
Mr. Donner supports. All in, oh, I'm sorry.
Looking at the map, you're getting rid of
Yes.
E.
So the question is getting
Very
rid
last-
of
Very
on the
last
map.
page.
oh, get rid of the map?
Is that E that you're getting rid of?
Yes, you're
Okay.
getting rid of E.
All right, makes more sense visually now.
Yep.
So I can amend my motion to eliminate E on the last page of the drawing,
Yeah.
Yep.
right?
I just have
Still s-
one comment.
Okay, is there still support though for the amendment? Mr. Donner? Yeah.
What about on the chart? Do we want to remove the plant bed per prune weed pricing? Is that good to stay there?
Oh,
I think she would just clean all that matrix up if we're removing those three or four items.
All right, then I still support.
Thank you. Ms. Otto had a question?
No, I didn't have a question, I just have a statement.
Sure.
So on the requirements under number 4, it says bidders must be in good standing with Northfield Township with no outstanding violations or financial obligations. This also will be part of their contract, too. I'm just making a statement.
Okay. I think as we see it is
Yeah.
the whole package is the actual bid form.
yeah.
Okay. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. New business, consider special, oh, I'm sorry.
Larry. No, I just
Go
had
ahead.
a general question. So we got, this is going out for bid. How are we advertising it? Just social media? Anybody know?
That's what she
what we
does.
said last time, so.
We put it on like the boards going through the display boards
Let's send
too?
it out to people you know.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really,
I don't know exactly everything how she does
I think
the,
she has several different areas that she puts it on, yeah.
because who knows, you might get a lot of bites on that. I just,
true. Anything else? No? New business, consider special event permit application for Kiwanis 4th of July Parade, Kiwanis Club of Whitmore Lake.
I'll make the motion.
Sure.
Make the motion to approve the special permit application for the Kiwanis 4th of July parade pending approvals from the police and fire departments.
I'll support. Any questions, comments on it? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We have a resolution. Next item, number 2. Ms. Otto?
Then I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 25-006, designating Lenore Zelenak of the Kiwanis Club of Whitmore Lake as the authorized official when application is made to the Washtenaw County Road Commission for temporary road closure for the 4th of July parade.
I'll support.
Supported by Mr. Donner. Any questions, comments? Any questions, comments on the motion? Seeing that we have to do roll call vote on a resolution, Ms. Manley?
Moko?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Roman?
Yes.
Otto?
Yes.
Chick? Yep. Donner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3, consider sponsorship for annual County Cleanup Day, an annual donation of $2,000 toward the event.
I will make a motion to approve the annual contribution of $2,000 toward the Washtenaw County Cleanup Day held in Northfield Township.
I'll support.
Supported by Otto. Any questions, comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Last resolution, item 4.
Now, this came before the board prior, and it was not done in a resolution. We had to have it in a resolution per PNC Bank requirements.
Would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, I make the motion to approve Resolution 25007, naming Treasurer Jacqueline Otto as the authorized representative for the township's PNC account, authorizing her to cancel all credit card accounts through PNC Bank and to close all accounts.
I support. Any questions, comments on that? We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Manley?
Donner?
Yes.
Chick?
Yes.
Otto?
Yes.
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Moko?
Yes.
And the last item, announcements, Northfield Township Community Center's 10th Annual Project Bunny Program is accepting donations and nominations through April 10th. Baskets will be delivered April 18th. Seeing no one in the audience, obviously no citizen comments, board member comments. Mr. Moko?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Ms. Manley? Ms. Otto?
We probably on our next board meeting, I don't know if we could do it by the next board meeting or as soon as we possibly can, include an agenda item on the building official, just to have a board discussion so everybody is on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, if you see the need, if we can,
Yeah.
or approach it otherwise
I really
beforehand.
don't want to delay
No,
Mr. Vitrino any longer.
no, and, yeah, and there was a motion, and we already authorized his services, so,
Right.
okay. Ms. Chick?
No, I just am happy that we're actually thinking about summer and approved the 4th of July item, so, yeah, yes.
Mr. Donner?
Nothing for me tonight.
Chief Smith? Okay, I have one thing, and if you prefer, I can bring it back at our next meeting, but again, I received another, as of yesterday, another contact that was for a concept that was from last year, and checked with our planning consultant. She had no idea about it. So, and I don't think anyone opposed it, but really, it should start at the planning commission to do the zoning ordinance amendment. Is there issue if I told the planning commission to initiate that? by the board. I'd like to notify you that's what, is happening, but, do we need it as an item? I don't think so, or a motion.
We had talked about it at the last meeting, and I brought it to the planning commission at our last meeting.
Right.
And advised that that was a comment and that we needed to consider amending it.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, let's get it on the agenda.
Okay,
They're all
so,
about it, yeah.
So what's the concept?
It's the pre-concept and the pre-application meeting that was changed to only allow the township manager at his discretion to invite anybody who wanted to, when actually it should be the township manager, the zoning coordinator, the consultant, and the engineer.
Right.
Yeah, and because he was doing them with nobody else, nobody knows who he talked to. Fifth
Or
one.
talked about.
Talked about it 5 times. now.
yeah, and that way it's all documented properly that's the way it should be. So if no one objects, I'm going to direct the planning commission, or ask the planning commission to look into it. And then they can go through what they have to and make a recommendation. But that's it. Make a motion to adjourn. Support by Mr. Moko. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.